Hello, thank you for joining me today. We are going to be looking at power chords. We're going to be looking at, what they are, how they sound, where we might use them, and a couple of exercises on how to just be totally sure of where to play these things. So the first thing to say is that power chords, also known as five chords. Five chords is the kind of musically correct way, but we always hear them as being described as power chords. Now, think of them like this. Sometimes when we play music, we can have happy chords, which are sometimes known as major chords. Now, the minor chords are the sad ones, so that we have a happy and a sad. Now, the power chords that we're going to be playing, we actually don't have a major or minor. We don't have that third in there, which is making it major or minor. Now, this is really useful. I mean, they're called power chords. They give it a bit of oomph without affecting the kind of overall feeling of the song or the chord itself. As an example, if I was going to play you a few things, I mean, AC/DC use power chords a lot. They want a lot of oomph in their songs. So they use like an A5 chord, D5 and then G5. Okay, these are very very powerful chords. We hear them in kind of rock songs when they're pumping along in eighth notes like this. Okay. We hear them in other songs like pop punk songs. That one at the end, that's a power chord. It's not major, it's not minor, it's a power chord. Now, we call them five chords because the chords actually have the notes in there, which are the root and the fifth, okay? And if we look at this diagram here, you can see that actually if we start with this one, with the two-note version, we have a root and then a fifth. This is the basic kind of format for a power chord. These are the only two notes in a five chord. Remember what we said, this is a five chord where we have the root notes, that's what tells us what kind of chord it is, and just the fifth, okay, that's the fifth note. So we have the root and then the fifth, which gives us this five chord, also known as a power chord. Now, just like any of these movable shapes, these are movable, the root note is the one which decides which chord it is. So as an example, this one here is an F5 chord because this note here, the root note, is on the F. If I was to move it up by one fret up to the second fret, this one would make it an F sharp power chord, or an F sharp 5 chord, we could say as well. Now the next one would be a G, of course, and that'd be a G5 chord. So sometimes if you're looking at a song, maybe you're following a chord chart or a sheet, it may say G5. That would be a G5 chord. Now another way to play these power chords is actually to double the octave, and this is kind of the much more common one to start with, maybe, would be this shape here. And we're playing on the F note here, which is the root. We have the fifth, and then I've put my little finger in here underneath on the D string, which is another root. What we're doing is we're doubling the root, so we still only have the root, the fifth, and the root again. You can hear, look, if I play this for you, those two notes are the same. They're an octave, so we still only have two notes. And having just two notes, that is essential for being a power chord. A power chord with the root note on the E string in its three-note format looks like this. We have the root, the fifth, and then the root. A power chord with the root note on the A string looks like this. So this is the root, the fifth, and the root. A power chord with the root on the D string looks like this. Root, fifth, root. A power chord with the root on the G string looks like this. We have a root, fifth, and then a root. power chord with the root on the B string looks like this. That's the root, and then the fifth. It's a really good idea to be comfortable with all of these positions to play a certain power chord. And what I mean to say is that a song may say F5. Now that doesn't mean that you can just play a power chord here. You could play a power chord on any of these different places. So let's have a look at these different shapes. So all I'm thinking about here are the root notes. Here's the F note here. Here's the F note on the A string. Here's the F note on the D string. Here's the F note on the G string. And here's the F note on the B string. Now what that means is that I can play the power chords in all of these different positions. Here they go, ready? So I've got F5 on the root note on the E string, root note on the A string, root note on the D string, root note on the G string, and then finally root note on the B string. And what that means is you can get a really, really nice little exercise just running through all of these shapes. And it will really help you to learn where the notes on the fretboard are as well. So we have F5, 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 F5. And we have the shapes just like that. It's a really, really good idea to practice all of those different versions of your power chords. It's not just the ones which you start to learn. You can find them in different places on the guitar note.